Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
Welcome to Side Action, Season 4, Episode 22. My name is Jim Weglars, a.k.a. Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And this is Steve Roberts, a.k.a. Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So, Action, we had obviously we'll talk about an amazing weekend with football games and those divisional games delivered for sure. How was the rest of your weekend?
It was fun. Melissa got back in town Friday. We kind of laid low a little bit, and then Saturday went out with some friends here in the neighborhood. We stumbled across a nightclub that I was unaware of on 9 Mile, and stayed out way too late and slept in on Sunday. So it was a good time. How about yourself?
I like to hear that, by the way, Action. I'm glad you're still getting out. I'm excited. As you know, I was in Gulfport, Florida, near St. Petersburg. Had a volleyball weekend with 40 of my closest Chicago volleyball friends, and we had an amazing time. Arrived on Thursday, just flew right in, and then went right to the beach, played a bunch of games, went out that night, played a ton of games the next day, played some more. So it was just awesome weekend. We saw those games Saturday night as a group. It was a house party, amazing. So I had a great time. I played 30 volleyball games in about 72 hours. That's a lot for me.
What was your record?
Oh, good question. Do I keep track? Yeah, I was probably about 500. I had a good run on Friday. I played pretty well. Didn't play great on Sunday. I actually was 0-4 on Sunday, but it's about the competition. In fact, on Sunday I didn't expect to play, but then they kind of talked me into playing, and I was kind of really sluggish to start, and then I totally fired it up, and we almost came back from it was 19-8, and we pushed it to 22 or something, but whatever. This time of the year, I'm not worried about wins. I'm worried about just getting out there, playing a good time, having a good time, and playing hard. So felt good.
Nice.
And then, as I know you're on the edge of your seat, I did win the ATS pool Action. So thank you for your assistance. I ended up, outlasting Schwa finally, and I guess the pick that did it was San Francisco against the Packers on Saturday night.
Nice. And there was a cash prize associated with that, I presume, right?
Massive cash. I think I might make $250, but who cares, So, hey, cash and tickets, right? Doesn't matter what it is.
Every little bit helps the bankroll.
There's also a trophy, so I guess my name gets etched in the trophy or something. It's this gigantic wooden ATS trophy, so it'll be proudly displayed somewhere in the Edgewater studio here.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a snapshot of it in the background in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about this great NFL weekend. We had the divisional round, which we talked about should be the best round. I think in general, there's 4 games and really good teams. And, these games were epic Action. I mean, obviously, from our metrics, the underdogs came through. They were 3-1 this week. They kind of flipped, and the road dogs were 3-1 as well. In general, it was kind of split with the totals. The unders were 2-2, and no games were affected by the spread, which is just fascinating. Just pick the side, right? Actually, pick the right side.
Yeah, it is fascinating. We talked about it every week this season, and it really holds true in the playoffs especially.
I guess so. So let's go into some of these games. Instead of doing highs and lows, let's talk about just the games. I mean, the first game, Cincinnati, they're kind of the young upstart team. I thought they'd be kind of fat and happy, or at least just happy to be there. And in some ways they were. I mean, Tennessee's defense dominated Cincinnati in a lot of ways with 9 sacks in this game. But unfortunately, Henry couldn't get it going. Obviously Tannehill threw an early interception, and he kind of was timid the rest of the game until they finally started finding A.J. Brown late. And they kind of blew the game late. I mean, they may not have gotten the cover, but they had the ball late with 2 minutes. All they had to do was get a field goal, and Tannehill forced the ball. And in the end, Cincinnati is going to be in the championship game here against Kansas City.
Yeah, I think Ryan Tannehill's poor performance really was the name of this game over the weekend. You have to figure that without at least, certainly the third interception, but at least
Right.
one or two of those, then Tennessee would have been in the driver's seat to come out victorious in that one. And now we get the rematch of Cincinnati, and just looking back, I think that you might have to downgrade Cincinnati just a little bit off that
Hmm.
performance, even though they came out victorious.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was a weird game, right? I mean, obviously, the thing is that Henry really didn't carry the ball over. I mean, he was 20 for, I think he had 60 yards or something on 20 carries, but I don't know why they didn't stick with Foreman. He had four
Right.
carries, 66 yards. I mean, I get it. Henry's our guy, but sometimes you got to go with the flow. And more importantly, just Tannehill just boneheaded plays. I mean, the one where he just threw it in the guy's hand. I know the guy made a great play. It was kind of like that wide receiver screen. He just made the play, but he didn't even need to force the ball. Go to overtime. You're really Cincinnati couldn't move the ball really very much, except for that one play at the end of the game to get it to Chase to get in field goal position. I do like the field goal kicker from Cincinnati. The dude is just like
Oh yeah.
nails, man. And I don't know if you heard the quote that before the kick, he was like, I guess we're going to the AFC Championship game. And it's like, okay. And he nailed that 52-yarder. It looked like it was good from 62.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
McPherson's definitely a weapon. Probably the best kicker remaining in the playoffs. Although
So
Gold has never missed in the playoffs, so
there you
got
go.
that
There
going
you
for
go.
him.
Nice. That's what we call a transition in the business action. Nice work. So the Packers obviously play San Francisco, and we were both on the Packers, I believe, in this game. I'm sorry, the San Francisco 49ers in this game. We've been riding them, but it wasn't the right side, I don't think. I mean, the 49ers offense was so bad. The Packers go down the first drive and score right away. I was really worried, action, and then obviously the Niners defense, which has been great for weeks, just stonewalled that team. But unfortunately, Green Bay's, defense held up against the running game, and it looked like the San Francisco 49ers couldn't catch the football in that cold weather. But thankfully, their special teams came to play. They blocked a field goal at the end of the half, which kind of gave them life. And as everybody knows now, the big block punt and touchdown, which apparently they weren't even trying to block. It just
Yeah.
happened, was the key turning point in the game. And as you mentioned, Robbie Gould kicks the field goal and says, fuck the Packers. So, 13-10 winner and cover. And, Aaron Rodgers may not be a Packer anymore. We'll see.
Yeah, there was some really huge swing plays in that game. You have to remember right at the end of the first half too, when Aaron Jones broke that huge pass play, and the Packers could have gone up 2 scores right there, and then the San Francisco Niners defense came in and got the big sack, and ultimately the Packers kicker missed the field goal, and that kept it close. And then late on, their special teams just did them in twice over, and the worst special teams remaining in the playoffs played out to fruition in that one.
Yeah, there are three phases in the game apparently, and it did cost them. It was interesting, besides that first drive and that play to Aaron Jones, I think that Green Bay only had like 119 yards in the game. So it was just the Niners just stonewalled them. But on the flip side, Jimmy G didn't look so great, and it looked like guys like Kittle and just couldn't catch the ball. We'll talk about later. Debo Samuel got a little dinged up in that game, but he had a key kick return, and we'll talk about that in the next one. So then we moved to Sunday action, and I thought those early games on Saturday were close, they were competitive, they were exciting. Nothing compared to Sunday. Sunday was just insane. I mean, the Rams came out, were blowing out the Bucks, kind of like they did last time. They were just kind of destroying them. They were moving the ball at will. Stafford looked great. The Bucks, didn't have Tristan Wirfs, and it showed. They were getting to Brady. They were leading 20-3 about the half. Had a chance to go up 27-3. Cam Akers fumbles on the one, but they do go up 27-3 in the third. I thought this game was over. Actually, I thought it was completely over. But somehow, between Tom Brady and the Rams just giving the ball away 4 times or 3 more times in the second half, Brady's friggin' tied the game with like 45 seconds to go. It's insane. And then obviously, Cooper Kupp, they didn't cover him, only the best receiver in the league, and they kicked the field goal to win the game. But what an incredible comeback by the Bucs.
Yeah, it was. It really aided by the Cam Akers fumbles, for sure. But you got to question the play call at the end, I think, by the Tampa Bay Bucks and Bowles to allow, I think it was zero blitz ultimately,
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
Cup got behind him. That was the name of the game.
Yeah, you got a safety on Cup. You're at your 45 or whatever, their 45. You give up a 44-yard play. I mean, ice in the game. It was probably the worst defensive call. And I know Bulls obviously had a great Super Bowl, but wrong situation there. But hey, I didn't think the Bucks were going to beat whoever in the next round, whether it was
Yeah.
Green Bay or San Francisco. So we probably get the better game here. And then the last game, obviously Sunday night, evening into night. It's just an instant classic action. I mean, we thought that this was going to be a great game. I kind of predicted it to be the great game, but after those three first games, I wasn't sure it was going to live up to the hype. And, slowish first half, 14-0 at the half, but the last quarter, really the last 6 minutes of this game were just insane where, the Chiefs had built a nice lead. They were up by, 9 or so. Then, obviously they were up again by, what was it? 5, I guess, was in the end, or 6,
Four,
yeah, 5.
4, right?
And then Buffalo, Josh Allen, let's give him the kudos. The guy played a great game. I mean, incredible game on the ground, throwing the ball, converting on fourth down multiple times, taking the lead inside of 2 minutes. But of course, they give up the touchdown to Tyreek Hill, 64-yard touchdown. Then they drive again, score again, give 13 seconds. I mean, I don't know about your opinion on the mortar kick or not. At the time, I didn't think about it. 13 seconds, who cares, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously 2 plays later, the Chiefs get in the field goal range and kick the big field goal by Butker and end up winning in overtime with the coin flip. But, I mean, that was just a gift of a football game.
Yeah, it was really exciting, definitely, but I can't help but think to myself, and at the time, just how terrible the defenses were performing in those last couple of minutes. I mean, there was just wide open receivers. The Chiefs' defensive backs were slipping and leaving Gabriel Davis wide open on multiple occasions.
4 touchdowns.
They really certainly missed Tyrann Mathieu, who got knocked out in the first quarter with that concussion.
Yeah. And I wondered too, I mean, they made a lot of points on Beeson and other places that why not just defensive hold Kelsey and Hill to try to, tick off a couple seconds and only give them a little bit of yardage. Of course, right? It did seem like they were trying to prevent defense for a touchdown instead of a field goal in the last 2 plays there. But what can you do? I mean, my dad, Mr. Group Text now, he was texting, the mortar kick. He should have done who knows? Maybe he made it 1 play. I mean, like the way that game was going, whoever was going to have the ball last was going to win. And obviously the overtime rules come into question now, but what a fantastic game. And, Josh Allen, you heard today that they snubbed him on the Pro Bowl, which is a joke.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then they asked him to participate because obviously Mahomes and what happens now is like, do you want to play? And he said, no, thanks, which I give him a lot of credit for. He's a Pro Bowl quarterback already. So. Well, let's go into this week action. I mean, we've got the championship Sunday, the 30th here. Big games. We obviously know the matchups now. We've got Cincinnati going to Kansas City, and we've got San Francisco going to the Rams. I didn't really update the metrics for the playoffs. I mean, it's interesting, though, action. When you look at the playoff index, the WIGS index, this is middle tier. Usually you have a top-tier team like a Buffalo in there that's kind of the clear favorite. I mean, the Chiefs are the highest in the index right now, but none of these teams are – and they're kind of middle of the road. It's kind of like 6th to 12th or 6th to 10th or so in the top, 14 teams that were in the playoffs. So, obviously we had the close games last weekend, so I don't know if the metrics really tell the story. It's more the matchups.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you get to this point, you have to look at what the individual matchups look like. And thankfully for us as bettors, we've seen both of these games pan out so far this year. In fact, the Niners and the Rams played twice, obviously, as division foes. Right.
Well, I just thought we'd touch on the injuries, and I haven't refreshed this since Tuesday, actually, full disclosure. But, we know that Ogunjobi for the Bengals was out last game. He's out. He's on IR officially now. But one of the other defensive tackles, Josh Tupou, he looks like he's questionable with an MCL. So that, obviously impact. It didn't stop. I mean, the Titans didn't run the ball very well against this team, but And obviously Hendrickson did play last week, which was kind of important, Trey Hendrickson. So for the Chiefs, you have Trey Matthew. You talked about him. He's in the concussion protocol. I haven't seen if he's going to play or not, but he's questionable. And I thought a kind of a key injury, even though they won the game, was Darrell Williams was out last week with a toe. I mean, I know that Edwards-Helaire played pretty well, and your guy McKinnon played good. But when you've got to run the football, those two guys aren't exactly, I don't know. They're not pile pushers. You know what I'm saying? I think Williams has a little more push, and I think he'd be important to play this weekend.
Yeah, Williams had a big day in the first meeting against the Bengals. And actually, I did check practice reports. Matthew apparently cleared because he was listed as a full participant today, along with Darrell Williams. Sorry, light practice today for Williams, but full on Wednesday. So it looks like the Chiefs are getting healthy again. I do not see I do see Josh Tupou was light practice both Wednesday and Thursday. So it looks like both teams are going to be getting their players back.
Okay, good. In the other game, 49ers, I mean, the big story was Deebo Samuel. Although he kind of hobbled off the field, I guess it was more of a bruise than a tear, a sprain with his knee. But he was questionable. And Trent Williams, the superstar tackle, his ankle, he was questionable. And then Ambry Thomas on defense, his knee is questionable. I don't know if you saw any practice reports of those guys.
Yeah, the Niners and Rams, no updates from Thursday yet. I guess it's still a little bit early in Pacific time zone. But most of these guys were DNPs on Wednesday. Both Bosa, Mack, Elijah Mitchell, Trent Williams. None of them practice on Wednesday, which I guess isn't all that surprising.
Yeah, I expect them all to play, just whether they're going to be limited or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Rams, Taylor Rapp, the safety is for the concussion. I think he's still questionable. Andrew Whitworth, who didn't play against the Bucs, he's questionable with a knee. And Joe Noteboom, his backup, was questionable. So I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen on that Rams offensive line, which is important against the Niners.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Going up against Bosa and company, certainly want to make sure you have your full slate of pass blockers.
That's right. Well, let's go into these matchups action. The first game is the Bengals-Chiefs. That's obviously an Arrowhead. It's 3 p.m. Eastern time. KC opened as a 7-point favorite. It's still sticking around 7. I kind of thought it would float up a little bit. The total's 54.5, 54. Depends on where you see it. Obviously, Burrow has been amazing. He's got Chase with the connection out there on the outside. And, they've got the weapons, but I kind of feel like there might be, a possible 11 with Kansas City. But for me, I think the Chiefs are going to roll in this one. I'm not saying that I would definitely lay these points. This is a good teaser spot if you're a teaser bettor. But I do think they're going to cover. And they, if you look at some of these things that we've talked about, the spread doesn't matter all that much sometimes. I still think this game goes over, and a lot of people are talking about the under, so I'm interested in your take on the total here. But, these teams played a lot. They scored a ton of points last time, but the Bengals were trailing by 21 points, so maybe it is an underplay.
Yeah, it's true. The first meeting was 34-31 this season. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati obviously won the game, which locked them into the division title, and of course, they decided to take off Week 18. But, I think that this total, I think the over is the right side. I'll tell you straight up. However, looking at the current number of 54.5, I certainly would not be running to the window to go over 54.5 because 54 is extremely key. It looks like there is at least one 54 still available at PointsBet here in Michigan. But certainly, if you're going to be playing the over in this game, you want to shop for the 54, and definitely wouldn't be running to go over 54.5.
Right, and that's why I hate to be a little soft. I know everybody's like, hey, I want to be on the right side. Why not tease this down? Tease it down to -1 for Kansas City and down 6 points, 48.5 on the total, and call it a day. But that's kind of my approach to this game. But do you see? Obviously the Bengals can win the game. We know that they've beaten them in the regular season. Do you think this could be a letdown spot for Kansas City?
No, definitely not in the AFC Championship. They're going to be ready to play and make it back to their third straight Super Bowl. And I agree with you. I think that KC is the side here at 7. I wouldn't be looking to the Bengals at all. I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have a game plan ready for Jamar Chase this time. They're certainly not going to let him go off for 266 receiving yards this week. And so I think that there's some opportunity for the other pass catchers. I'm going to be looking at playing a couple of Cincinnati Bengals props over. Tyler Boyd, for example, is one guy I'm targeting. And I do think that the Chiefs defense will be able to play a little bit better. Certainly seeing Matthew back in the defensive backfield is going to be a huge help for them as well.
Well, I mean, Gabriel Davis is the fourth option in the Buffalo offense. So you're not wrong on that one. I mean, Diggs had 7 yards in the game. And my guy, Dawson Knox barely caught the ball either. It was just the matchup that they exploited, that second corner. So maybe, like you said, T. Higgins or a Boyd might be a good prop situation.
The other thing I heard discussed this week, which I thought was really poignant, in terms of the Chiefs' offense getting right. Recall earlier in the season, they were not their normal selves the first half, I'd say. And they've certainly turned a corner recently. They've gone over in 7 straight games. And I think you've seen a little bit of a change in terms of how Mahomes is handling those too deep looks. He used to just drop back like 20 yards, which made the play almost impossible. But now he's stepping up in the pocket, which not only gives him the ability to keep his eyes downfield, but opens up running lanes. And he has been running to quite success lately. And I'm looking at his over rushing prop as well, 28.5 for Mahomes rushing yards.
Well, as you may know, if you read the Weichspool article, he was a leading passer and rusher on the week this week. He had that big, 35-yard run in the beginning of the first half. I think you're right. The other thing I heard in the analysis is that despite those big plays, to Hill and everything, he didn't have any air yards over 25 yards in the game. He was throwing the ball, 10 to 15 yards. He was killing the intermediates, and his guys were just run after catch all day, including Kelsey, and Hardman had a nice play as well. Even Pringle, I think, had a nice play. So it's one of those things that I'm not sure how the Bengals will play it, but they are changing their approach and letting those speedsters just get the head of steam and make plays down the field after they catch the ball.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the second game. I think this is probably the better game. If we, I think empirically we can say this should be a closer game. The 49ers are playing the Rams. This is their third meeting. It's at 5:30 Eastern. The Rams opened as a 3.5-point favorite. I haven't seen it come off the 3.5 right now, action. Totals around 46.5, right in that range. Now, San Francisco has owned this matchup. I mean, they're 6-0 straight up and against the spread the last times they played. Their front has definitely taken care of the Rams on both sides of the ball. Everybody seems to be on the Rams action. I don't know what the deal is. I get it. The Rams are playing great, and they seem to have turned the corner in terms of not turning the ball over, at least Stafford, in critical situations, but they had 4 turnovers last week. Part of me wants to say, hey, the Rams got to be the side now because they're the better team. They've been playing great, but I got to stick with my San Francisco 49ers here. They were my pick preseason and at the beginning of the postseason. What do you think?
I like it. I like the Niners a lot too. I mean, beyond the obvious matchup advantage, I think winning six straight games against one opponent and the same coaching staff and the same game plan on both sides has got to tell you something. And I also think that at some point this is going to start to get into the Rams' heads a little bit. Can you imagine what kind of feeling might come over you as a Rams player, especially if San Francisco takes the opening kickoff down for a touchdown? This could spiral pretty quickly. And, we saw it in the last meeting there, the last game of the regular season, where the crowd was mostly Niners fans. I'm seeing reports in social media that I think StubHub reported like 60% of the resale tickets are going to Northern California. So I think that home field advantage is probably 0, maybe like half a point in this game, which gives more credence to the Niners.
Right. So a couple of things, and we haven't looked at betting splits. I'm not trying to make you do it, but maybe you could as I talk some more. But it seems like the public is going to be on the Rams. It seems like the public wants Chiefs Rams, right? That's what people want. So it's obviously good to go against the public. And obviously the first game, you could say, well, hey, go with the Bengals. But to me, it's a little bit more of a long shot. The Chiefs seem to be. I mean, look, I just think the Buffalo Chiefs winner was going to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, they showed they were great teams. The Rams are a bit of a front runner, and I think to your point, if this game is close, will Stafford come through in the clutch? He had the big plays at the end of the game. I do think Bowles gave it to him on a silver platter, especially in the last. And in the end, Cam Akers coughed the ball up twice on Sunday. Do they trust him? I don't know. They go back to Michelle. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I do think if the Rams are to win this game, they have to run the ball effectively, and I'm not sure they can do it against the San Francisco front. And more importantly, is Jimmy G didn't play great on Sunday, but look, they were down 17-0 in the last one, came back in basically a must-win situation. I think he's going to play a good game this week. I don't know what it is. I think he's going to play a good game. Of course, Debo's got to be healthy and Williams too, but I agree with you. What is the 49ers total in the first half? It's got to be fairly low, right? 13, 14 points maybe?
Team total in the first half? Yeah. I mean, we haven't touched on the total yet, but this is a 46 right now, which is pretty average total. And obviously the last meeting stayed under, but I think in the first game this season, they went way over the total. So I think that you're onto something there looking at the total. And if you think that the Niners are going to have some success, it could be prudent to tackle them on the team total side. Let me look here. Team total first half is 9.5 over with some juice, or 10.
Right. So it's kind of low. I mean, they do sometimes turn it on. I think that there are adjustments. I think one of the candidates, he's not really a candidate for a head coaching job right now, but he's having a great playoffs and end of the year is DeMeco Ryans for 49ers. Here's a question, though, Action. I've heard this stated many times. My understanding is this is the 7th straight road game for the 49ers. Do you think, despite the crowd being maybe on their side, do you think that maybe this is the end of the road? Because it's obviously they're closer to home, but they've been on the road for months.
I don't really think that has much bearing, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a team historically that has gone on long trips and had success. Remember, a couple of years back, they've had that East Coast swing, and they would stay on the East Coast and try to get close as a team. But I think that the advantage in terms of rest and travel is with the Niners, because they were in Green Bay last weekend, and LA is coming from a trip to Tampa.
Sure. Okay, well, just to review, now the index told me to take, Cincinnati +7 and 49ers +3.5, but I think we're both on Kansas City minus the 7, laying the points, and 49ers +3.5.
Yeah, I'm also betting on the Niners money line. I know you have a Super Bowl future, so it may not be the wise thing to do, but I took the Niners +160 to win the game.
Like that, juicy. All right, well, that closes out the NFL portion. Let's talk about the college hoops now. Let's go over the action index this week. There has been a little bit of a change. There's been a little bit of a shakeup. Did you pull this today, or was it a couple days ago?
Yesterday.
Okay.
So pretty fresh.
I can see that Gonzaga's number 1. Baylor's dropped down. Arizona did get beat by the Bruins that you're down on the other night, but Kentucky at 4, Houston 5, Purdue 6, Auburn 7, Kansas at 8, LSU 9, and Duke 10. You want to talk to us a little bit about the action index?
Yeah, a little bit of a shakeup at the top. I think Purdue dropped a few spots since we last spoke, and Auburn, pretty standard in there. I think that LSU is a team, despite a loss this week, that is one I'm keeping an eye on, and certainly the loss that Arizona had at UCLA last night was surprising in terms of just how big the margin was. I think that was probably obviously the worst performance that the Wildcats have had all season.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA was shooting the lights out in the first part of that game when I saw, and Arizona couldn't hit it. So, well, let's roll into some games this week that I've identified. Now, this week they've got the SEC, whatever it's called, Big 12 SEC Challenge or whatever it's called. There's a lot of great games on Saturday. I don't know if you have any Friday action, but I didn't see anything on there for you action. But on Saturday, you've got Oklahoma. Obviously Moser's there now, and he's going to Auburn. Oklahoma's plus, they're getting 10 points on the road in this one. This is Saturday the 29th at 1 p.m. Central. Do you like a side in this one?
Yeah, I would probably look to Auburn in this game. I think it should be every bit of 10 points and probably more. Oklahoma is a team that doesn't really have a ton of athleticism in their ranks this season. And I think that the Auburn guards and bigs are going to be able to crash them on the boards. And I think that 10 is probably not enough.
Yeah, probably not. Auburn's a really good basketball team. They're number one team in the country now, but they have struggled in their league. But I think Oklahoma may not have seen their like so far. They do have one of those transfers. Last year we watched them in the tournament. Those Eastern Washington guys with the big beards, one of those brothers. I can't remember their names right now.
Groves.
Oh, what is it?
Groves.
Oh, nice.
The
other game I was interested in was Baylor. They're obviously the fourth-ranked team. They're going to Alabama. Alabama is struggling in general to cover numbers, but this game's at 3 p.m. Central. Baylor going to Alabama. Any thoughts on this game?
I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be a very exciting game. I mean, Alabama has not been playing that well recently, and Baylor hit a slide in their own right a couple of weeks ago with some key injuries, and COVID, I think, ran through the team a little bit. But I make Baylor probably a 6-point favorite here on the road, and
okay.
I think that's pretty close to in line with what Ken Pom might project at 5, and so I think that it's tough to call on the side, to be honest with you. I would probably look to an under in this game. I think the Baylor defense this year is strong, just as they always are, 11th ranked. And I think that Baylor's going to control the pace a little bit and keep Alabama from running.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama is obviously all about offense. They're 96th on defense. So if Baylor can get after them and slow down their pace, that's critical. I'd probably take Baylor on that side. How about this one? This is a great, blue blood matchup. Kentucky, they're 12th ranked now. They're going to Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse. This is at 5 o'clock on Saturday. You're listing it as Kansas as a 3-point favorite at home. Now, look, I've watched both these teams recently. I'm not sure what to make of them. Sometimes they play great, and sometimes they play down in the competition and compound with each other. So do you think that this, would you lay the points here at home with the Jayhawks?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, we talked about this Kentucky team last week, and I think we both agreed that they were the side in that game against, I think it was Auburn. Yeah, they played at Auburn last weekend. And they played really well in the first half, but they just couldn't score in the second half and ended up losing the game. But my numbers really like Kentucky, mostly buoyed by their number 1 ranked offensive rebounding ability.
Tshiebwe, oh my God, that guy is incredible. He had like 24 rebounds and like 14 of them were offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
Tshiebwe, right.
He is impossible to keep off the glass. Former Mountaineer, Oscar Tshiebwe.
Right.
And, again, my numbers make Kentucky a little bit of value here. I think that this should be closer to 1.5 or 2. And so there's a little bit of value on that side, but playing at Fog Allen is going to be tough even when you have Kentucky on your jersey.
Yeah, both these teams are, from my numbers, are both 1 and 3 against the spread in the last 4. So it's probably who's going to see it. But I think this will be a fun game to watch, at least on Saturday. The last Saturday game I have is actually was this not yesterday? I have Marquette at Providence. I thought they played this yesterday, but maybe they play again. They're doing home and home.
Yeah.
Marquette is going to Providence on Saturday at 3:30. Marquette, they're kind of rising star. They've got your guy Shaka Smart up there now, going to Providence, and Providence is kind of a darling now. They're top 17 in the AP. I'm not sure their metrics match up with their team. So you've got Marquette getting 3 points at Providence. I'd probably back Marquette personally, but talk me off of that.
I mean, directionally, I think that you are on the right track there because this Providence team and Ed Cooley as the coach has just been pulling games out of their behinds lately. Right. They're just winning close game after close game, and they won the other night from a 30-foot heave at the buzzer against Xavier. And on the flip side, Marquette and Shaka Smart's team has now won 9 in a row against the spread. So a team that has turned this around, and they did play matchup a few weeks ago. It was on January 4th.
Okay. I was thinking They beat Seton Hall. My bad. They covered against Seton Hall the other night. My
Yeah.
bad.
And that was the lone terrible game that Providence has had on their wager so far this season. They lost by 32 to Marquette at home. So, oh no, wait, sorry, that was at Marquette. This is the flip side. And I would think that there's probably some value on the underdog as well.
Okay, good to know. So back to the Big Ten on Sunday, you've got Ohio State going to your Boilers at 11 in the morning, the bright and early before the football games. That's 11 a.m. Central. Purdue obviously is a 9-point favorite at home. Are they, they've been struggling a little bit, and obviously you've got A.J. Liddell in that game who can score against anybody, but you have the Twin Towers for Purdue to wear him down. What do you think about that game?
Well, Ken Pom makes it 9, and I think it should be closer to 12.
Okay.
Purdue is a team that just has the matchup advantage against Ohio State, and I'm not sure that Liddell, despite his ability to score inside, or Zed Key, their other big men, are going to be able to defend Edey in the paint. So I like Purdue at home. Certainly am going to see how the game shakes out tonight. Purdue's in Iowa City on the road at Iowa, and I think I've already seen some sharp money on the Hawkeyes. So a loss against Iowa tonight makes me like Purdue even more on Sunday.
Okay, good to know. Last game I highlighted was back to the Big 12. Kansas is going to Iowa State. That's obviously Iowa State's always kind of a pesky team in the Big 12. They're maybe not as good as some other years, but on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central, you're showing Kansas as a road favorite. I'm just concerned that after the Kentucky game, they might be a little bit weary, so I probably may go with home team here in the Big 12. It's always tough to win on the road.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think, and this Iowa State team has been really pesky this season and surprising a lot of people with how they've played in the Big 12 especially. They play stellar defense, 6th ranked on that side of the ball.
Yep.
And I think if you can get them in a home dog role, it's definitely the right side.
All right, look at this. I'm doing something right. Early season. So, that closes out basketball, unless you got some other ideas on the weekend. Do you have any other games that you're eyeing?
Nothing that I've been targeting. To be honest with you, we talked about this a few weeks ago. I've been doing less looking ahead just with the COVID cancellations and the news. I don't really find the time or the value in terms of lining up games ahead of time. I usually do my work day of.
Gotcha. I'm just going to make my plug for the Colorado State Rams. They're playing really good this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can make the tournament the first time in a while. I like the way they play. I've watched them a lot lately, so they've gotten some wins. But they're small, but it's nice to see them play better. All right. Well,
I did have one thing to add since you mentioned it. I just remembered I made another futures bet today, which I think the number would still be available for our listeners, and that's with an old friend and different coach, Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Oh yeah.
This team is another stalwart defensively. They're 4th ranked against defensive opponents, and they are very good on the glass as well. And I think that you've seen some of their Big 12 opponents make some adjustments so far this season to go against that defense, but when you get into a tournament setting and you're playing against foes that aren't used to lining up against the Red Raiders, it can be a little bit more difficult to prepare for them on a short notice.
So you probably like them against Mississippi State this weekend?
I would say so, yes, indeed. And I didn't mention it, but it is 40-1 on Texas Tech at FanDuel, I think.
And that's to win the title, or that's to win the Big 12? That's to win title.
The NCAA tournament, yeah.
Yes. They are 4-1 against the number in their last 5. I love seeing that. One of the things I track action, as we go, I try to do it from whenever I start, just a couple of weeks ago forward. It is really hard to pick a college basketball team that covers on a consistent basis. Outside of Gonzaga and obviously Texas Tech right now, most of the teams are 500 at best, so you're kind of just not shot in the dark, but it's hard to find teams, and I guess the numbers may be a little tighter, plus you get buzzer beaters and stuff that kind of mess up the bad beats. But this is one of those teams, because of that defense, until Vegas started adjusting them, or at least the market is starting to bet on them more. I like your angle there.
Yeah, and I think college basketball, more so than other collegiate sports, you tend to see a huge emotional letdown after big wins too. So you see that teeter-totter effect as teams navigate through their schedule. like the UCLA Bruins, who got a huge win the other night against Arizona. They're now playing against Cal tonight. It's a classic letdown spot.
Classic letdown, right? Exactly. Johnny Juzang, sorry, you won't make a shot tonight. So, yeah, everybody was just, I mean, they couldn't miss the other night. It was kind of fun because Arizona's like touted as a national title contender, like we talked about last week, and we were downplaying UCLA, but they played up for that game for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's do a little golf touch here. We're talking about
Sure.
maybe. I'll leave it up to action.
We can recap my terrible picks last week that I gave out. The matchup ended up losing. Our buddy Brian Harmon shot like 8 under on Sunday and couldn't miss on the putting greens. I did have it on one of my 4 screens in the family room on Sunday.
Right.
Our long shot, Harold Varner, 120-1, actually had a chance on Sunday. Through the first couple of holes, he was about 2 shots back from the leader, but he quickly dissipated and didn't really have much of a sweat coming home down the stretch.
Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So Johnny Vegas didn't come through for us?
No, Johnny Vegas was probably the lowest of my 4 picks last week. Harold Varner was really the one that gave me some fun. But this week, I mentioned to you earlier, we can't really talk about it because the PGA moved up the tournament. Actually, the first time that I can remember that they started on a Wednesday, so they're going to finish on Saturday and avoid the NFL Conference Championships.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the ratings are so high with these football games that they want to avoid that crunch, so maybe they're making that. That's weird that they make that adjustment, but I mean, the majors don't have to worry about those kind of things later, but that's fascinating. Interesting stuff. So, okay, well, let's, just a little plug that, I mean, we have so many listeners, Action, as you know. I mean, our loyal listeners are everywhere, and they want T-shirts, and I've given out some T-shirts lately. But we are going back to Vegas. We've made it official. We are going back to Vegas. We're going for March Madness. We've kind of decided we're going to get out there the 16th of March, which is the Wednesday before the first round, and stay there through Saturday right now. We do have some people staying through Sunday. We've got a group of roughly 7 guys, maybe more. We'll see. Everybody's welcome. I know you've extended it to your pool player guys. And we're going to secure at least a day bet at Circa on Thursday, that opening day of the tournament. I put in the deposit today Action. Of course, after we talked, they raised the prices by $500, whatever. It's like real-time pricing. But yeah, super excited, man. I mean, we went there last year during COVID. It was only just the 3 of us, you, me, and Prime, and we're going to get a bigger group, and I'm excited to get back to Circa.
Yeah, I think by March 16th, COVID will just be eradicated from planet Earth, and so anyone who wants to join us is certainly welcome.
Right. So hopefully you can make it. If not, that's fine. We do plug Circa. We're not promoting, them for monetary reasons. We just love the place and loyal to those guys, and we're really excited to make this trip again, and hopefully we'll have a good turnout. So
I do have a negative review on Circa since you brought it up. I realized the last time I was there that the dice tables are actually a little bit longer than what you would see at some of the normal places on the Strip. I went and tried to practice my normal throw, and I realized that it was just a tad bit longer, which threw me off my game.
Dude, we can't have that. We can't have that. Action's got to have that perfect spot. The high toss, one bounce off the window, and boom, there you go. So we see you, Circa. Come on, Derek Stevens. I know you're listening.
Let's get a normal-sized table in there. Come on.
All right. Well, obviously follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right, everybody. Enjoy the last weekend of with championship football, and then we'll get to the Super Bowl in a couple weeks.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.